And Sharon's here, sort of,
Hello.
kind of, halfway.
Hello, hello. It's good to have you join us as we have some exciting things to share. I am Mona Duncan, your moderator. Do you ever wonder why you do the things you do? Would you like to be more aware and confident and competent? Would you like to be more effective? Well, then this program is for you. We meet each week to share with you a concept developed by the renowned psychiatrist, Dr. William Glasser. He formulated reality therapy and choice theory, and very quickly these concepts, well, they're easy to understand and easy to apply, and very quickly they spread the globe. Choice theory is the universal system for empowering individuals and improving relationships. It's based on the simple system of control, as in who has it. We have more control over our lives than we often give ourselves credit for, and we definitely have a lot of influence over the lives of others. So in control, sometimes we say, well, can't you make that kid behave? Well, the answer is no, we can't. But we can help the child learn to take care of himself where he's acting and behaving in a more pleasant demeanor. This program is called Making Sense of It, and it is our desire to help you understand and integrate Dr. Glasser's amazing concepts. We have a speaker from the Glasser Institute that will talk about one of the concepts, and then after, and today Kim Olver is going to be talking with us on having a good relationship with ourselves. And then after she does her presentation, she and I will talk for a few minutes, and then I will close the airways. And then those of you that are watching live can make comments and ask questions and be a part of the program. So, Kim, welcome. It's good to have you here. And are you ready to?
Mona, thank you.
You ready to take it?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Well, I just want to say hi to everybody. Thanks to everybody that's on the call and to those who will be listening later. Today, I want to talk to you about the subject of building a healthy, loving relationship with yourself. I know that this was a concept I struggled with. I didn't understand it. People kept saying to me, are you taking care of yourself? And I didn't know what they meant. I thought, well, of course I am. Nobody else is, so I must be. But that isn't really the answer. So I ended up doing some research and wrote a book about Choosing Me Now, which is about building that relationship with yourself. But the most important thing for this call is that when I was doing it, I really leaned heavily on choice theory to be able to talk about that. And that's what I want to share with you today. So I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint and we will get started. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. So I already said building a healthy, loving relationship with self. How do we get healthy self-esteem? It's difficult because we are not always in control of that. I know Mona said we're in control of ourselves, and we really are, but we are also heavily influenced, as she also said, by the people around us. So you have developed in your life a picture in your quality world of your ideal self. Most of us have that picture of our perfect self, which I don't know if I'm talking to any perfectionists out there, but I hate to break it to you. We're never going to reach that picture of perfection. And then when we look in the real world or in the mirror, and we're looking at who we really are, we realize that we fall short of that ideal picture, which causes a disconnect in our relationship. So there's really 3 things you can do to fix this disconnect or to balance your scales. You can adjust the picture of your ideal self. So instead of imagining perfection, you might imagine good enough or great enough even. You could adjust your perception of your actual self. I know that we tend to be hardest on ourselves. I just had a friend ask me the other day, what would I say to my daughter if she were saying the same things I were saying? And I know it would be way different than what I was saying about myself. So adjust your perception of yourself. And what I'm going to talk about today is actually adjusting our behavior to be more in line with that person that we see as our ideal self, maybe a little less than the perfect picture. So the first part of that is really getting to know yourself, because people will often say to me, I don't even know who I am. I've turned myself into the person my husband wanted. I was always the little girl or little boy that my parents were wanting. So somehow we lost ourselves in that process. So I have some questions for you to evaluate your perceptions with, because in choice theory, we know our perceptions are created from our experiences and the knowledge that we accumulate along the way, as well as our values, and they color our perceptions. So if we don't have enough knowledge, or our knowledge is skewed and our values were instilled by someone else other than ourselves, we may have some perceptions that aren't serving us. So here's some questions for you to ask yourself. Where do you get your information? This is really obvious to me when I talk to people about politics. It depends on where you get your information from, what your beliefs are. Information so strongly affects our perceptions. So where are you getting your information? And are you getting it from enough sources to really know that it's accurate? Is it true? And how would you know if it's true? Then think about, does anyone have a vested self-interest in giving you that information? Are people trying to keep you the way you are? Are people trying to mold you into the person they want you to be? So ask the person giving you the information, do they have a vested interest in that? Ask yourself the question, what do you value? Not what do people tell you you should value, but what do you actually value? Were your values yours, or were they instilled by others? And then I like to think about, what would I believe and value if there was nobody giving me their opinion? That might be I don't know the answer to that, but I think about it a lot. Am I a victim of confirmation bias? You know that there is a confirmation bias in the sense that we go in search of information to support what we already believe, instead of looking at alternate sources of information to see if what you believe is based on truth or based on you trying to support your already held beliefs. Are you a victim of your brain's hardwiring for negativity? We know that the brain is hardwired for negativity, so we need to develop habits that allow us to find the positive in the negative, because it's always there. We just have to know how to look for it. And then, have I had enough experience to really know? So maybe what you need to do is get more experience. Leave your comfort zone. Have some experiences that expose you to new and different information. So I want to go over the basic needs. I know you already know them, so I'm going to do this really quickly. When I wrote my book, I changed some of the names of the needs just because I wanted to update it to the topic that I was actually talking about, and I think it makes more sense to call them these different names. So no disrespect to Dr. Glasser at all. I do talk about his needs as well. So the first one is survival in choice theory, and I call that safety and security, mainly because there aren't a lot of people struggling in the United States just to be able to eat and have a roof over their heads. I know that there is a population that does, but they're not buying the book Choosing Me Now because they're more interested in getting a roof over their head and finding something to eat. So I'm calling it safety and security. I also call the power need significance. I find that when I ask people if they have a high power need, nobody wants to answer yes to that. But if I ask about the need for significance, people are often very willing to raise their hand and say, yes, I want to matter. I want to be important. I want respect. I want to make a difference and leave a legacy. So that's when I talk about significance, I'm really talking about the need for power. Freedom, I didn't change because freedom is freedom. Doing the things that you want to do without restriction. And I call the fun need joy. I found that when I called it fun, people were thinking mostly about wild, crazy kinds of fun, as in play. And when we get to be grown up, I hope we don't lose that desire for play, but sometimes we do, and we're more focused on relaxation or we're more focused on learning, both of which are good goals and meet the need for joy. And the last one, and I save it for last because Dr. Glasser taught us it was the most important, is connection, which Glasser called love and belonging. And they need to be connected to others and connected to causes and connected to groups and people that matter to you. So let's just go over relatively quickly the needs and the things that I chose in my life that were important for me to look at when I was looking at relationship with self. That doesn't mean that you will have the same 3 that I put under each need. You may have something else that I didn't even consider. The other thing I found fascinating about this work was that when I asked my colleagues in choice theory to review my work, many of them saw some of the things that I put under one need under a different need. And I think that that's the beauty and the frustration of Glasser's needs, because they mean different things to different people. And so I cannot judge whether you have a high power need. Only you can tell me that. You may be engaged in power behaviors to get a different need met. So I found that rather interesting. So what I'm going to present to you is my version. And I invite you, after you hear mine, to create your own in your own time. So the first one, safety and security. I talk about your relationship with money, your relationship with your body, and your relationship with your health. For me, when I get those 3 things in line, my safety and security need is very satisfied in the relationship I have with myself. I probably should back up and say that one of the things when I was considering how do you build a relationship with yourself, I thought about how do I build a relationship with anyone? I first get to know them, which was the part about perception and understanding who you really are. And then we become need-satisfying people for one another. So my question was, how do I develop a need-satisfying relationship with myself? And these were my answers for safety and security. What are your answers? The next one is significance. And I thought about my relationship with my inherent value and worth. And what I believe about that is we all have equal value and worth by virtue of the fact that we are here. There are no spare parts, and you are here for a reason. So my mother used to tell me, Kimberly Marie, you are no better than anyone else, but no one else is any better than you. And I didn't really understand what she meant then, but now when I was doing this work, I really understood what she was saying to me. Then anybody who's ever studied choice theory know that you have to get right with your relationship with control. And it goes back as far as probably Aristotle, but I think about the serenity prayer when I think about this. Knowing the things that we can control and taking 100% radical responsibility for those things. I am 100% responsible for everything I do, most of what I think, and even the things that I choose not to do. And then there's other things that you're not in control of. And so letting those things go, not spending a lot of time and energy there, because that's the place of victimization, which does not help to build a healthy relationship with self. And relationship with your passion. I think when we were children, like this little one here on the slide, loved herself. And somehow we've forgotten that. Life has gotten in the way. Life has caused us to question ourselves, and we've forgotten what we really love and who we are supposed to be. So getting in touch with your passion and then operating from that in your work, in your life, will be very helpful in building that relationship with self. This next one is freedom. And I talk about 3 things. Freedom with your environment. I think that environment is a very important thing right now, especially with all of the ecology things that are happening and climate change. But I also am talking about your own personal environment, Like, do you have a space that you can call yours, where you can be 100% yourself in peace? I think that's really important. I have an entire condo where that's true for me because I live by myself. Those of you who have other people, do you have a room in your house, a corner of your house, a place outside? Maybe it's a place you visit. Some people I know feel 100% at home at Starbucks. Wherever you go and whatever you do to help you feel like you are free. Are you free from self-created misery? Now, I go into this a lot in my book. I don't have time to go into it a lot here, but we create, I believe, almost all of our misery, barring those things that just happen, like natural disasters and people dying. Most of our misery, we create ourselves, and it comes from the stories in our head, and it comes from our expectations of other people. And then freedom to be yourself. Are you free to be yourself? And first, of course, to be able to do that, you have to answer the question, who are you? Do you know who you are? And then, are you free to be that person? Joy is the next one, and this one I have 3 pieces. The first one is your relationship with play. The second one is your relationship with relaxation. And the third one is your relationship with meaningful discovery learning. So those are the 3 things for me that comprise joy in my life. So when I get right with those 3 things, and the thing I'd like you to look at is actually all of the rules you might have in your head about it. A simple rule is something that was taught to us when we were children. You cannot play until your work is done. And that's great when you're in 1st and 2nd grade. But by the time you get to be a senior, or by the time you get to be my age, your work is never done. So you never get to play if you follow that rule. So observing the rules that you have and figuring out, do they serve you? And do you want to make new rules, or do you want to burn those rules up? The next one is connection. Connection. In connection, I talk about your relationship with your sexuality, knowing what you like, knowing what you don't like, being able to communicate that to sexual partners. Relationship with your expectations. I know I talked about expectations in terms of freedom, but also we expect a lot from ourselves and from others. And I find that often what we expect are things they've never showed us they're even capable of. But we're holding them accountable for the pictures we have in our quality world instead of pictures that are more realistic. Because, you know, in our quality world, everyone's perfect, including us. And then your relationship with your concept of love. We all have love scripts. They were instilled in us as children by our parents, by Walt Disney, especially for me, and by our religion, all our communities. Everybody has information about love. What is your concept of love? And is it serving you, or is it keeping you from the connections that you really want to have? So those are the needs. Now I want to talk to you about be daring, take risks, live, really live, laugh, matter, and love. I took all of the needs and threw them all together in this, so you have the goal. Now, the next slide is actually something that I learned from a senior faculty of the Glasser Institute from years past, Barnes Bothy. And Barnes had the idea that needs are not, they're inherent inside of all of us, and we go outside for ways of meeting them. But I want you to remember that we are actually full ourselves of these needs. So think about this. You are safe and secure. You are significant. You are free. You are joy. You are love. And if you want to put those 5 things in your quality world as something that your perfect picture of you, that's the picture I'd like for you to have in your quality world, of you being all of those 5 needs in the world, not just going out and trying to get them to fix you, but to actually radiate and be those 5 things in the world. So commit to continuous improvement. This is a journey. Never get mad that you're not where you want to be. You're on your way. Become the you that you were meant to be. There's no limit to what can happen when you do. Thank you.
Well, all right. Is that it?
That's it, Mona. 20 minutes on the dot.
On the dot, I am telling you. Well, Kimberly Marie, that was fantastic.
Thank you, Mama.
I want to go back and highlight just a couple of things that you were talking about. When you talk about, what do you value? And in part of that, evaluating what you really value, how much of these things do we value them because they were hand-me-downs? And it's okay to have a hand-me-down value, but make sure it's your value.
That's right.
Not one that you're just taking on. And I was wondering if you would delve in just a little bit more in that confirmation bias.
Oh, yeah. So people have opinions and beliefs, and they feel strongly about their opinions and beliefs, so they are constantly going out looking for information that supports their opinions and beliefs. And when they're confronted with information that that denies what they believe, or that's the opposite of what they believe, they will pay no attention to that. It's almost as if they don't hear it. That's confirmation bias, and we all have it. It's wired into our way of being in the world. So we need to be aware of it and ask ourselves, am I prey to this confirmation bias?
Okay, very good, very good. And then your insight into the concepts and everything being both beautiful and frustrating.
Oh, amen.
Reminds me of Dr. Glasser saying that people say, well, all these concepts are so common sense. And he says, no, it's not, or everybody would be doing it.
I always say they're common sense that isn't common, because you're right, nobody does them, but everybody says they make so much sense. So I like to ask people whose behavior you can control, and everybody knows it's theirs. But the next question is, whose behavior do you try to control all day long? And everybody admits it's everybody else. So that's why it's not common. We know the information here, but we're not actually practicing it.
Right, which kind of dovetails into your expectations.
Correct.
What are your expectations? And it may be of others, but they don't have a clue that's what you're expecting.
So true.
So how do you approach that conversation in the connection?
With the person that I have expectations of?
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, I believe, and I say this actually in my book, I didn't have time to say it in 20 minutes, but I believe
we'll
that—
give you a little more time here.
Thank you. I'll always take more time. So if we have something that we want from someone, we have every right to ask for what we want. And I even say you can ask for it 3 times. After 3 times, I think you're nagging. So when you've asked 3 times, you want to let it go and then go inside and ask yourself, if I'm not going to get what I want from this person, what does that mean for me? And what do I need to do for myself? It might mean that you do it yourself. It might mean that you hire someone else. It might mean that you distance yourself from that relationship. It might mean that you accept that this is who the other person is and they're not going to be able to give you this, and it's okay. So there's a lot of options, but ask for what you want. I think it's one of the biggest things we women especially don't do often enough, is ask for what we want. If we get it, that's a win. If we don't get it, we learn something along the way and we change something about ourselves that gets more of what we need.
Excellent, excellent strategy to fulfill that. And then talking about Barnes Bothy and how that we're already full, because we have these needs and we're full of having those needs. And something that I would say to the prisoners, I worked with them for years, and the fact that we may be absolutely throwing up full. I mean, you're just satiated with everything, but you're not fulfilled. So we need to see that we're not eating cotton candy and wanting to be nurtured. So whatever our needs are to fulfill them, to be full of it, but in ways that are fulfilling, that doesn't harm us or harm anyone else. Well, thank you, Kim, and thank all of you for being with us today. Whether those of you that are watching online later, well, come in we're 10 o'clock Central Standard Time every Wednesday, and we have someone from the Glasser Institute that is well versed in the concepts, and we'll give some in-depth information about that. So in the meantime, we hope that you have a great week, a great day, a great life, and good mental health. Blessings.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop the recording.